hands drifting to the hilts of their swords. Another step. The murmurs of courtiers filled the grand hall, shocked whispers rippling through the assembly at her audacity. Another step. On the throne, King Xerxes fixed his gaze upon her, his expression unreadable. His fingers curled around the scepter, knuckles whitening. Would he raise it in mercy, or condemn her to death? Many years earlier, in the lively and crowded city of Susa, a young girl named Hadassah lived under the care of her cousin Mordecai. She was neither a princess nor a noble woman, just an ordinary Jewish girl, unnoticed by the powerful and wealthy. Yet, what she lacked in status, she made up for with something far more valuable. She possessed a heart full of kindness, a mind rich with wisdom, and a courage that would not waver, no matter the trial ahead. One day, the mighty King Xerxes declared a grand contest to find a new queen. His messengers spread the decree across the vast Persian Empire, reaching every province and city. The most beautiful young women from far and wide were chosen and brought to the royal palace. There, they were given the finest silks to wear, their skin was perfumed with the richest oils, and they underwent months of training in royal etiquette. They learned how to walk with grace, speak with elegance, and present themselves before the king. Each one dreamed of being the next queen, of wearing the royal crown and sitting beside the most powerful ruler in the world. Among them was a young Jewish girl named Hadassah, though here, she was known by her Persian name, Esther. Unlike the others, she had no noble title, no wealth, and no connections to the royal court. Yet, she possessed something far greater than outward beauty. There was a quiet dignity in her presence, a kindness that made people feel at ease, and a wisdom beyond her years. She did not try to impress or outshine the others, but something about her made her stand out effortlessly. When her turn came to stand before King Xerxes, the great hall fell silent. The king, who had seen countless women parade before him, paused. There was something different about this one. He saw it in her eyes, grace, intelligence, and a strength he could not quite explain. In that moment, he made his decision. After months of preparation, the day arrived. The entire palace gathered in anticipation. King Xerxes lifted the royal crown and placed it upon Esther's head, declaring her queen of Persia. Applause echoed through the grand halls, and a feast was held in her honor. From an ordinary orphaned girl, she had risen to the most powerful position a woman could hold in the empire. Yet, beneath the golden crown and the royal robes, Esther carried a secret that no one in the palace knew. She was Jewish. Her true identity remained hidden, just as her cousin Mordecai had advised. For now, she would keep her past to herself, unaware that one day this secret would become the key to saving an entire nation. Meanwhile, in the grand halls of the king's court, a man named Haman steadily rose to power. He was wealthy, cunning, and ambitious, and soon he became the most trusted advisor to King Xerxes. With the king's favor, his influence spread like a shadow over the empire. But power was not enough for Haman. He craved absolute control. He wanted the people of Persia to recognize his greatness, to fear him, to bow before him as they did the king. Wherever he walked, nobles and commoners alike lowered their heads in submission, afraid to displease him. To those who refused, Haman showed no mercy. Yet there was one man who stood tall, unshaken by Haman's authority. Mordecai, Esther's cousin, refused to bow. He was a loyal subject of the king, but his heart belonged to God alone. No amount of pressure, no threat, no law could make him bow before a man. Each time Haman passed through the palace gates and saw Mordecai standing firm, his pride burned with fury. At first, Haman's anger was directed only at Mordecai. But when he discovered that Mordecai was Jewish, his rage turned into something far more dangerous. Hatred took root in his heart, twisting his thoughts into a monstrous scheme. Destroying one man would not be enough. No, he would make Mordecai suffer in the worst way possible. He would wipe out all the Jewish people in Persia. Every man, woman, and child. He would erase their very existence from the empire. And so, Haman devised a terrible plan. He went to the king with carefully chosen words, playing on Xerxes' fear of rebellion. "There is a certain people scattered throughout your empire," he told the king. "They keep themselves separate. Their laws are different. They do not obey the king's commands. It is not in your best interest to let them live." Haman knew exactly what he was doing. He knew that if he made the Jews sound like a threat, the king would act swiftly. He tricked King Xerxes into signing a law that allowed the people of Persia to attack and kill every Jew, men, women, and children on a certain day. Once the king's seal was placed on the law, it could not be changed or taken back. And so, with honeyed words and a bribe of silver, he convinced Xerxes to issue a decree, a law allowing the people of Persia to rise up on a certain day and attack the Jews. Once the king's seal was placed on the decree, it was final. The law could not be undone. When the news spread, terror gripped the Jewish communities. Fear spread through the Jewish communities like wildfire. People cried out in sorrow. Families wept, knowing their days were numbered. They held each other tightly, afraid of what was to come. They knew their lives were in great danger, and no one could escape this fate. And Haman smiled, pleased with himself. He had set his plan in motion. He had ensured that Mordecai would not only die, but watch his entire people be destroyed. Or so he thought. But Mordecai sent a desperate message to Esther. Go to the king. Beg him to save us. Esther's hands trembled as she read his words. Go to the king. That was dangerous, maybe even deadly. The law was clear. No one could approach the king without being invited, not even the queen. She hadn't seen him in a whole month. If she went to him without permission, he could have her put to death. But then Mordecai sent another message, and his words stayed with her. Don't think that just because you live in the palace, you will be safe. If you say nothing, help will come from somewhere else, but you and your family will still be in danger. Who knows? Maybe you became queen for this very moment. Esther took a deep breath. She knew what she had to do. She would go to the king. But first, Esther called for a 3-day fast. No food, no water, only prayer. She needed strength and wisdom, and the Jewish people across the city joined her in fasting and seeking God's help. Now, the moment had come. She stood at the entrance of the throne room, one step away from life or death. The massive hall was silent. Every eye was on her. King Xerxes looked up. His gaze met hers. For a breathless moment, no one moved. Then, he lifted the golden scepter. Relief rushed through Esther like a river. She had been spared. The king's voice rang through the hall. What do you want, my queen? Even up to half my kingdom, it will be given to you. But Esther did not speak of a danger just yet. Instead, she bowed gracefully and made a simple request. She invited the king and Haman to a banquet. Haman, full of pride, believed he had gained the queen's favor. He left the palace that evening with a smug smile, certain that his power was greater than ever. But then, he saw Mordecai, still standing, still refusing to bow. Haman's joy twisted into rage. His hatred for Mordecai burned hotter than before. That night, he gave a wicked order. His servants would build a massive gallows, 50 feet high. At sunrise, he would ask the king to have Mordecai hanged. But that same night, something unexpected happened. The king couldn't sleep. He called for the royal records to be read to him. As the scribes turned the pages, they came across something shocking. Years ago, Mordecai had saved the king's life from an assassination plot. Yet, he had never been rewarded. Morning came, and Haman entered the palace, eager to demand Mordecai's death. Before he could speak, the king asked him, "What should be done for a man the king wishes to honor?" Haman's chest swelled with pride. Surely, the king was speaking about him. So, he described the grandest reward he could imagine, dressing the man in royal robes, placing him on the king's own horse, and leading him through the city in a magnificent parade while everyone cheered. The king smiled. Excellent! Go and do all of this for Mordecai the Jew.